hour and 58 minutes of voting time for the beautiful supermom on Hawaii, Jenny. So Jenny is going to share her story right now with you guys. She's going to spend a little personal time up close and personal with you guys. Why we're asking you on this rainy Oahu afternoon day to just take a minute, watch this video, and pray to God. You know, maybe this vote is going to change not only this young lady's life and her daughter's life, but many other people in the future. So with that, Jenny, if you can open up and just share a little bit about the Super Mom contest, who you are, why you're doing this, and this is what you guys look for, okay? So when you're looking on Supermom, thesupermom.org /2025 /Jenny hyphen 6. You go vote here. She is currently still in first place, but we want to get her up over, and so she stays in first place for her category, okay? So if you guys can donate today, it's double the votes. If you can donate $10, $20, whatever you can afford. So 20 votes is a $10 donation. And if everybody just gave her $10 votes, you know, right now she get 20 votes and it will all add up. So we're just asking, this is the last 2 hours, 1 hour, 57 minutes and 13 seconds. So here's Jenny. She's going to talk at you and share why she's asking you guys to support the ministry, her ministry, and this voting competition. Go ahead, Jenny.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, following along. So I kind of just wanted to share a little bit more about my story. So, you know, that way you guys can kind of know me a little bit more and know the story a little bit more. So, yeah, I guess I will just, start. So, okay, so let's see, where do I begin? Yeah, so this competition, which is, you know, for those of you who have been watching, is the Super Mom competition, and yes, so, and, you know, kind of with my story of why I have entered this competition, and sort of just, you know, kind of what, you know, what I've been battling for the past 4 years of my life and counting. So, the reason why I feel like it's so important, you know, for me to get this story out is because I feel like there are so many people that are going through what I'm going through right now, and I don't know, maybe like whoever is watching this right now, maybe you yourself are going through this or know someone going through this. But I had, you know, child services involved in my life, and, you know, they came and, you know, wrongfully took my child away. And during that time of my life, you know, going through that initially was such a traumatic experience, and not feeling like, you know, I didn't know what to do, and I felt like I didn't have support, and, you know, I felt really just scared because I just, you know, worried that, you know, maybe nobody, you know, understands, or nobody knows what to do to help. And, you know, if you've ever gone through something like this, you know, having to, you know, fight against, like, you know, the system, I guess you could say, the legal system, and having to fight against that entity, you know how hard it is. And I know that you know what I'm talking about. You know, it's like, where do I begin? Like, how do I even share this? Like, it's so hard to even talk about, and because I've been going through it for as long as I have, it's still ongoing, you know. I'm still in the fire going through it right now. And the suffering that it's created, and my life and my child's life, it's been really hard. And, um, it's just like, I wish that something could be done about this. I wish more people would talk about it. I wish that this is something that, you know, that people would be concerned about, because I feel like it's not talked about enough, and maybe there's, I don't know, there's not, we're not seeing it on the news, you know what I mean? Like, these kind of issues that are affecting families, across the world, you know, um, and affecting maybe you who is watching this, or maybe you know someone who's been affected, or their family has been affected. And it's hard to talk about it. It's hard when you're in a situation and, like, it feels like you're up against some, some force, but that force is operating this organization, the child services. And so it's not really even like fighting against a system per se. It's more like you're just like walking in the dark, and you don't know what's happening. And it's terrifying because they've got your child, and you feel like there's nothing you can do because there's all this legal stuff, like they've got your child, they took your child wrongfully, and then like now you need to get your child back, but they put you through these loops and these holes that feel almost impossible. They just make your life as hard as possible, and then your life is already going really difficult, and they're making your life even more difficult, basically forcing you to jump through all these loops and these holes and these really vicious cycles to basically, like, try and get your child back that they wrongfully taken away, and like, what they are doing, it is legal kidnapping. It is legal kidnapping because there have been these laws set in place where it's legal for someone to come to your house and just take your baby away from you. Say, a neighbor made a call, say a teacher made a call, or, a therapist made a call, and they can say anything, they can say whatever they want. And these social services people will literally come to your house and take your child away. No court order, no warrant, just, hi, I'm here to take your baby away. And you're saying no, like, no, you cannot take my baby away. But then they use force, so basically threaten to have you arrested if you don't hand your child over. So, that's what I went through personally. And I was terrified because they're coming in and they're, telling me they're going to take my child away, and basically threatening me, threatening to basically take away my rights and my freedoms if I don't hand my child over. And so when you're in that moment, you are thinking like, I'm gonna like be arrested for doing absolutely nothing, and it's so scary because when you're in that moment, you're just like, what am I supposed to do right now? Am I going to jail? You know what I mean? For literally nothing. because you're not handing your child over. You know what I mean? And so that is what happened to me, 4 years ago. And, it's been an ongoing case, it's been really hard. And, um, like, there is a lot that is wrong with our system. If somebody can walk into your house, say,
Wasn't expecting
in
a
the middle of the
cadaver
night
donor the other
and
day when I went to the
take your
dentist. That
baby
was
away
such a
like that,
shock.
it is seriously, there's seriously something wrong in this world. If that is okay for somebody to just come to your house and take your kids away. And like, what world do we live in where somebody can literally just come to your house and take your kids away? For literally no reason, no court order, no warrant, and they can just come in based off of a call. Say someone called, say someone made up something, they can legally come to your house and take your kids away. And so, and then now you have to go to court, and you basically have to defend yourself in court against whatever accusations they've made against you for why they took your child away. And say there is no solid basis for why they took your kids away. Let's say they just took your kids away, and you're still having to defend yourself in court. You know what I mean? Like, you're still having to work in this system in order to get your child back. Like, you're having to go through these services, these hoops and holes, and like, you know what I mean? Like, and then basically they're like providing these services that you then have to complete in order to get your child or children back that were wrongfully removed in the first place. So, whoever is watching this, and maybe you understand that situation, or maybe you know somebody who's been in that situation, and you know how scary it is, and how helpless you feel, and how defeated you feel, when you're going through this and not having the right support or the right resources, like, I feel like the majority of people that, have their kids taken away from them for no reason at all, I feel like a lot of these parents become targeted. Like, you become a target because you don't have that support, the resources. So it's even easier for them to come in and just take your kids away. And then I did so much research on this because, having gone through this for the past, 4 years of my life, I was like, there's something not right about this, like, I'm feeling like I have to do research on this. So I read so many different articles, I watched so many videos, I did some research into this very public senator who spoke about this social services corruption, and I learned things that made so much sense to me, but at that time I had no idea that that's what I was going through, like, it made sense, like, wow, okay, so that's why they make it so hard for you to get your kids back, because there is this state funding, and then there's these incentives that go into the the social services, and that entity, that department, that organization. There is this funding that goes into it. Like, it's very similar to, like, say, prison, jail cells, empty beds don't make money, you know what I mean? So they're filling these beds with prisoners to receive this funding from the state. And there are some people that are being wrongfully arrested just so that they can have these prison beds filled. And so this organization that took away my child, you know, it may have started on good intentions, you know. Maybe in the beginning, initially, when this organization started, maybe they were there to help kids, you know, kids that may be hurt or abused or neglected or, you know, maybe the intention of this organization was to then come in and intervene and basically rescue these kids from, you know, bad situations that they're in. But so much has changed within the system that we live in that it's no longer for the right reasons, you know. There are these people that are coming in and taking kids away for absolutely no reason at all. And there's these parents that are having to fend for themselves with no support, no money, no resources, and having to fight to get their kids back that they have wrongfully been taken away. These kids that were kidnapped from their homes in the middle of the night, even, and having to literally fight in court and defend themselves and against the accusations that are then made against them, and fighting so hard to try and get their kids back. And it's like all odds are stacked against you, and it's like it feels like you're working against the system, you know what I mean? And they're making your life as hard as possible to then get your kids back that were never supposed to be taken away in the first place. You know what I mean? And to describe that experience is hard. It's hard to even begin to put that in words. You know, the trauma that is inflicted upon the kids, the families, the parents. It is literally a crime against humanity, the trauma that they're inflicting upon these innocent families and kids, you know? It is so devastating to be separated from your kids. It is so devastating for your children, your child, to be separated from you, parents. You know, the damage that does to a child. Like, this should be illegal. You know, this should not even be a real thing that happens in the world. You know, legalized kidnapping. This should not happen in the world. You know, nothing could ever make it okay where someone can just come into your house and rip your child away from you for no reason. How do we live in a world where this can happen? You know what I mean? And so, like, the whole intention behind, you know, why this competition means so much to me is because, you know, the opportunity to be able to share my story, you know, and have, you know, have my story maybe reach the right people, you know. This could change our lives. This could change so many people's lives if we were to come together and make this happen, you know. And the competition is a super mom competition, right? And as moms, we're here to support each other. And as a mom, you know how much you love your kids. You know that you would do anything for your kids. And like, imagine having your child taken from you, to then be fighting tirelessly to get your child back. And you know how devastating the weight of that is when you're fighting against this unseen force. And feeling scared and not having a voice and not enough support and we need to talk about this, and we need to keep coming together and making that change that we want to happen, you know, because if we are going to make this change and, you know, I guess try and make something happen, you know, like as far as, you know, can we just come together and try to like fight together? You know, it's gonna take a fight, you know, because we as people, not even as parents, we as people, we have rights, you know what I mean? We have rights and we have our freedoms, and we need to be able to come together and fight, you know, because if we're not, you know, I guess talking about, you know, issues that are happening, if we're not talking about these things, nothing is ever going to change, you know. And if you know the horror of having your children taken from you, like, you want to do whatever it takes to try and make a change, because we shouldn't live in a world where people are getting their kids kidnapped from them, you know, and having to fight like and go through hell to get their kids back. And there's some of you that may have lost your kids because you couldn't fight back. And maybe there's some of you that lost your kids because the system is so corrupt. You know what I mean? And how many of you have lost your kids and never got to share your story and grieving over your kids every single day? And like, just how terrible that is to go through something alone and not feel like you have support. And so like, we need to change something about this. And this competition, I want to take this opportunity to share my story. And if you are supporting me and voting for me, we are basically coming together as a collective to make that change that we want to see in the world. You know, that change that so desperately needs to happen in the world. And the winner of this competition will appear on the cover of Women's Magazine for Supermom of 2025, which will be featured. They will have a 2-page feature in this women's magazine, and we have this opportunity to share our story. Do you know what I mean? And so if anyone is reading this magazine, or if anyone is talking about this story, we are then able to create that change we want to see, because it might just reach the right person, you know what I mean? Or not even that, it could personally just help a parent that's gone through something like this. If you have gone through something like this, you know, we're supporting each other, and we're getting that story out there. And, you know, we're not alone in this fight. We're all in this together. And if we are coming together and fighting for this change in the world, we're strengthening our voices together as people, as moms, as fathers, as families. You know, we're speaking up for our kids that didn't get to talk, our kids that were taken from their families, their parents, and never had a voice, you know. And that trauma of a child being ripped apart from their families and then put into some home with a complete stranger, and terrified because they don't know where their parents are, terrified because they're feeling alone, terrified because they don't know what to do, you know. And the reality is, this is happening all around the nation. You know, it's happening here where I live, it's happening where you live, and we got to do something about this, you know what I mean? So please vote for me please show your support so we can make this change happen together. Okay, we gotta help. We've gotta help make a difference, you know, and we gotta stick up and we gotta use our voices together. So thank you so much for your support, and thank you so much for watching. Thank you for following along on this journey. You know, I love you and thank you, and you know, thank you for supporting me. And I really believe that we can come together and create this change that we want to see in the world, you know, and I really believe we can do that. And, you know, that's like, that is the intention. That's the whole intention for why we're doing this. So, please, please, please continue voting for me. Please show your support by sharing this video if you feel inspired to share. Let's get the word out. Let's use our voices, and let's make this change happen, you know, and let's speak up for the kids, our children, you know, because they deserve this, you know, they deserve to have our voices, you know, and they need that because nobody else is fighting for these kids, you know. Our government is not fighting for these kids, you know. These these public officials are not fighting for these kids, and the people that are in charge to be responsible for these kids, the very same people that we are entrusting our children's livelihoods with, are not doing anything to make a change. They're not doing anything to help these kids. And so there are these lost, afraid kids that cannot speak up for themselves, are completely traumatized, are being taken away from their families, their parents, and they need help. And you know, like, what are we doing? You know, this shouldn't even be happening. Like, we're not living in a third world country where people should have their kids kidnapped. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that in third world countries that should even be a thing. No one should have their kids kidnapped at all. But I'm saying, how do we live in a world where this happens and nothing is being done about it? You know what I mean? So please, 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 can we come together and help make a change? And please, can we help be the voice for kids? Please, can we create a better future? And please, 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 can we just end the suffering, you know, the crimes against humanity, the wickedness in this system that this system is operating under. Please, can we please just use our force together and make this change, you know? So if you've been watching and you made it this far, sorry I'm like blabbering. I hope that, you know, I got that point across, and I hope that was clear, and I hope that you understand, and I hope that you also want to step up and help me in this fight and continue supporting and voting, keeping me in first place so that I can win this competition, and so we can get our story out, you know, and we can all use our voices to make that change that the world so desperately needs. So thank you so much, and thank you for watching. Thank you if you made it this far. I love you. Thank you for the support. Okay. Bye.
You gotta create that change in magnetism. You understand?
Our vibration. How can my mind work? I'm gonna talk to her a little bit. Just, you know, structure a little bit. Oh, are you done? Okay, you wanna make one more? You have like another.
So it says, are you sure you want to stop streaming? Do
Yes.